Welcome back to our Python programming series. Hi guys, I'm Sana Imran, and today we will be discussing about Python functions, how we define functions in Python, and what are some of the important built-in functions in Python, which help us save us a lot of time and effort, and we just call them and they get our work done in seconds. So moving to our topic, Python functions. Functions are used to increase the reusability of a chunk of code without causing redundancy. We define a functionality feature in some lines of code and keep them inside a function. So whenever we need to solve a problem involving that same functionality we defined in that function, we just make a function call for that function and don't have to write all that code again. So here you can see a basic syntax of functions in Python. We use our keyword def, and then comes the name of the function. We mostly make our function name according to the functionality we are going to do in that function. So it helps us to uh, just understand at a glance what this function is going to do. And after that, we have these small brackets inside which we get arguments of that function. We define some arguments, which could be some values or anything, any kind of data that we will be requiring for some functionality which we are going to perform in this function. So we will take those data values as arguments in the function, and inside the function we will be using those arguments, those values, and performing some kind of functionalities on those data values, and then returning some value after performing all that functionality. For that we have a return keyword here in Python, and after that we have to return that value, which can be this value can be either an expression, or returning some value, or it can be a variable, or simple an integer value, or any type of you can say a value of any data type. So this is a basic syntax of a Python function. Now moving to the function examples. First of all, we have here defined a function, which is a function for greeting someone or a group of people or a whole community. So for greeting someone, we have created here a function with the name greet, and here as an argument we are passing the name of the person or community or anyone whom we are going to greet using this function. So inside this function, we see a print statement which is printing hello, and then the name passed as an argument here. Its value will be printed here. So after defining this function, we are just making a function call to call that function. In any programming language, once we define a function, we create a function, then that function gets saved in the memory of our local PC or laptop or whatever we are using. And after that, whenever we want to execute that function, and those statements defined inside that function, we need to make a function call of that function. We just write the name of the function, then these small brackets, and inside them we just have to pass if any arguments are required. So here I'm passing world, and we are greeting the world, so it will print hello world here, as you can see. Or I can change this name with anything else. We can either greet some person, we can say Ali, so it is printing hello Ali. Or here we can greet anyone, so we can change this parameter with any other name. Second example is a function for adding numbers. For adding numbers, we have given the function name as add numbers, and we need two parameters, or two integer or floating point numbers, which we have to add. We will pass here as arguments, and we will return their addition. So here you can see we are just returning an expression. This expression will get solved, and its result will be returned after this. At the place of the function call, we make this function call, and here you can see we are making a function call and saving the and storing the result. The returns value we get from this function will come here, which will be assigned to the sum result variable. So here we are passing two number arguments, which are 5 and 3, and we want to add these numbers, and the result, which is 5 plus 3, will be returned here, and this 8 will be stored in this sum result variable. And then we are printing an appropriate message. The sum is sum result, which is this variable, and whatever value will be returned will be stored here, and we are displaying just that value here. So the sum is 8. There's another function, is a function for checking if the given number is even or not. For that, we have defined a function named as isEven. For checking something, we mostly name that function as is, and then whatever we have to check, we write that name. So in this way, we get a very suitable function name that is basically a check function. So we have to check a number to be even or not. So we must pass that number into that function to check if this number is even or not. So we will be returning if that function divides completely by 2 and contains no remainder, that is 0 is the remainder, then this number must be an even number. So if the modulus of that number with 2 is equal to 0 becomes true, then it means this number is an even number. So here we take a number 10 and we are passing the number 10 into this function. If is even. If this function returns true, then print number is even. Else, else case is just if that number is not even, it will just print that this number is odd. Either number can be even or it can be an odd number. So 10 is an even number. Next, move to the Python built-in functions. There are predefined functions contained in libraries of a programming language that come along when we install the packages of a programming language on our local system. These are called the built-in functions of that programming language. The built-in functions contain several functionalities, and we get an advantage by calling them for the type of functionality we need, which is contained in that built-in function. So Python has a variety of built-in functions. Here is a pictorial view of them. You can see, and some of them you will see here in the examples. We have used these functions. Some very basic and useful important built-in functions of Python are: number one comes the print function, which we have been using along this tutorial from the start, which is very, very essential. And we need this built-in function to print, to get our output, to show user the output of our program, or just make our functionality user-friendly. We use it a lot. Then there comes input function, which is very, very essential. Again, it helps us to take input from the user. The simple input function takes any value from the user in the string type, and then we can even take numbers or floating points or integers or complex numbers or lists or tuples or anything from user. But then we can again we will get all these values in string type, and we will have to convert them into our required data type. And for those data types and those type conversions, we again have several built-in functions. Here you can see as int function will convert any string type of value into integer type if it is a number. If it is again a number. If the string contains any alphabets, it will not be converted into integer type. Similarly, if we get user input using input function for a floating point number, then we have to convert it into type float. For that we use float built-in function. And if we want to convert any other type of data into string type, we use string function. Here, for converting any value into Boolean type can only be only 0 and 1 can be converted into Boolean type, which is either true or false. Then for converting any type of value into list, we use list function. For converting any type of value into set, we use set function. Similarly, tuple function for converting into tuple, and dict function for converting into dictionary. But for dictionaries, we need to give values in pairs for key value pairs. So according to our usage, we have to provide appropriate values to these functions to have type conversions. So before that we were discussing input function, and after that there is a length function, len function, which is basically a short form of length, which returns us the length of any list or string or tuple, or any iterable, returns us the literals of strings, total literals of strings, or total values of an list or a tuple or a set, etc. And then we have a type function here, which we discussed before while we were discussing about variables and data types. So this type function returns us the data type of the value passed inside it. So moving to the next, we have mathematical built-in functions in Python. There is a sum function which returns the sum of the values given inside it. If either we give a list of values inside this function, which are numbers basically, it will return us the sum of all those values inside that list, which is 6 in this case. A round function. Round function helps us to round off a floating point number till some specific digits after the decimal point. Here we have taken 2, so it will return us 3.14 up till 2 digits after decimal, as shown in here. Then we have pow function. Pow function is basically short form of power, which helps us to calculate the exponentiation. First comes the number and then comes the power to which we need it to be calculated. So here pow 2 3 means we need to calculate 2 to the power of 3, which is basically 8. So output will be 8 here. Next, we have a max function, which returns us the maximum value of any list, or you can say set or tuple. Then we have min function, which returns us the minimum value inside a list or tuple or a set. Then we have abs function. Abs function is basically short form of absolute, which returns us the absolute value of any number passed inside it. If a negative number is passed inside it, it will return us the unsigned values. Then we have div mode function. Div mode function is the short form of division and modulus, which returns us the quotient and remainders of a division. Here we have taken 10 divided by 3. First comes the dividend, then comes the divisor, and the result, which is 3 is the quotient and 1 is the remainder, comes in pair as a result of this function. Then we have eval function, which is the short form of evaluate, which helps us, which actually helps us to um, evaluate some arithmetic operations inside a string, any functions or operations performed on numbers inside a string. If we just pass that string into this eval function, it will evaluate those numbers as actual integer numbers and as actual operations and output the result. Then we have exec function, which is the short form execute. This execute function helps us to execute a Python program or Python statement basically, but that statement is passed as a string. If that statement is passed as a string and we just want to execute it as a, as in you can say program code, so it will run that as a code statement and will not treat it as a string. Then we have some functions related to lists, strings, and iterables, which help us to while we are working on iterables. So here is a function, built-in function map, which helps us to map some values. For example, here we have created a small function for calculating square of a number. As you can see from the as it refers to its name, left square x can be a number, and it will return the x to the power of 2. It will return the square of that number. So the square of that number will be passed. So here, this function square we are using by just we are here. What we are doing here is printing something which is converted into list. And what is that inside list? The values will be map. What we are mapping here, mapping means some value is connected to another value. So this square is the function here. What is it doing? The square is actually taking each value from this list one by one and returning its square here as a result of this map function. And that value is becoming a part of this list, and a new list variable is being created here, which will be having the squares of these values. As an output, it will be 1494123. Then we have range function. Range function we also discussed before while we were looking in for loops. Range function actually helps us to iterate values, basically numerals. Basically, it's by default its starting value is 0. So if we don't write it, we can just run it without that. The second argument is the number up till when we have to run this, up till when we have to iterate, the total number of iterations. And then we have a step argument, and by default its value is 1, which we often skip. So the 0 and 1 we often skip and just write the value of how many times we have to execute this loop. So we can also change these values. We can either start arrange from 4. But now what I have done, I have I have just written the initial point here 4, which is greater than this 3. So do you think it will run? No, it will not run because this 4 has gone greater than this 3. This 3 is the limit. Actually 3 minus 1 up till 2 it will be run. But here we got 4. Even if I write here 3, it will not run and cause an error. So it must be less than 3. It can be 2. And in case of 2, it will run only once. And here we can also change the step. If I start it from 2 up till I make it 9 or I make it 8, and here I make the step 2. Now every time 2 will be added as a jump for the next number. So first time it will print 2, second time it will print 4, third time it will print 6. Then for the next time, for the fourth time, it will become 8, which is equal to this, but 8 will not be printed. So because 8 is excluded, so it will only print 2, 4, and 6. But in this case, we are having just 3. So in case of 3, we got output 0, 1, and 2. Then we have a reversed built-in function which just reverses the contents of a list or a tuple. No, tuple can't be manipulated because a tuple is an immutable object, is an immutable data type, so its contents cannot be you can say manipulated. So we cannot perform these functions on tuple, but we can perform these functions on a string or a list only. Also, we cannot perform it on dictionary and sets because dictionaries and sets are not sequences. Those do not contain values in a sequence, or those do not have any indexes. Strings and tuples and lists contain indexes, but also in these tuples are immutable, so tuples can also not be reversed. But so only strings and lists can be reversed or sorted. So for sorting, we have a sorted function here. We just pass a list of numbers, or uh, only a list can be sorted basically. So we pass a list inside a sorted function to sort it in ascending order or descending order. We can also mention um, what in what format we want to sort it. Then we have next an iter function. This iter function basically iterates over a list, and we are actually what we are doing here. We are saving this function iter and passing it some list, which we are saying that we will be iterating it inside this variable, and this variable is being passed to this next. So this next function, what is it doing? It is just taking, it is just working as a loop, and it is just you can say for first time if I execute it, it will return 1. Next time if I execute it, it will return 2, and for the next time if I execute it, it will return 3. So if I just here copy paste it again and again, you will see the output will be here, the output will be 2, and here the output will be 3. So after this, here this was the output 1 2 3 4 5 sorted. Then we will be having our this output. Here you can see this was the list, sorted list above, and then we got here 1 2 3. Now then we have an enumerate built-in function, which basically what does it do? It will help us to return the index along with the value inside a sequence, which is basically either a string or a list. So if we pass a string, oh sorry, a list inside this enumerate function, and we want to get each value of this list along with its index, it will return us the index and the value. Then we have an all function. This all function returns us values in true or false. Um, we only use it to check if uh, all the conditions inside a list are true. It will return as true. If any of the condition inside a list is false, it will return as false. It is basically like AND operation. And there is an any function. This any function, if a list of true false conditions are passed inside a list, if any of them is true, it will return as true, and if none of them is true, it will return as false. So it is basically working as an OR operation. And now moving to the next, which are functions for our number system conversions. Bin, which is short form for binary, is usually used to check a binary number of any number we pass to it, of any decimal number passed to it. Then we have oct, which is short form for octal, which returns us the octal value of a decimal number passed to it. Then we have char, which is short form for character, which returns us the character for the ASCII code we are passing to it. We are passing the ASCII code value of any character, and it will return us the actual character for that ASCII code. And then we have ORD. This ORD function, we will pass any character, and it will return us the ASCII code of that character. Then we have two more built-in functions, which are dir. Dir is basically short form for directory. If we print a directory uh, function and inside it an empty list, it will return us a list of all the classes and objects present in that directory. Then we have instance built-in function. This is instance function is again, as you can see, is comes in the start, is used to check if it takes two arguments, and first argument is the value and second argument is the class, and we check if the value or the object, if the object belongs to that class or not. To check if an object belongs to a specific class, we use this is instance function, and it returns us true if that object belongs to that class, and returns us false if that object doesn't belong to that class. So that's it. That were our Python functions and built-in functions. Hope you liked it and enjoyed and understood. So for the future, for further concepts, stay tuned for the next videos and keep following. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. So stay tuned, inshallah.